Jason Seif, and this is the Indiana Libertarian Update for the week of March 6, 2017. Party leaders and individuals are planning for the 2018 election cycle. Donald Rainwater is one of those individuals, and we'll hear about his plans for Hamilton County and more in 2018. He's a remarkably thoughtful and well-spoken libertarian. I think you are going to enjoy this interview, so stick around for that. We've got that in just a few minutes, but first, let's check on libertarian news and events from around the state of Indiana. Some encouraging news from the State House last week. The Indiana Senate has passed a civil asset forfeiture reform bill. Now heads to the Indiana House, and we'll keep you posted as that bill progresses or doesn't progress. Depends on what's happening over at the State House. Jobs in Northwest Indiana may be lost if a tax increase on smoking becomes law. Several smoke shops, which rely on smokers from Illinois, fear that the increases will lead to less business. The bill has passed the House and now heads to the Senate, where it is expected to pass because it's been folded in with a highway funding bill. And if it pleases the Crown, the local peasantry may now consume the exotic brews of Pennsylvania. Yuengling can be legally sold in Indiana bars and liquor stores. That was of no concern to the scofflaws at the Antelope Club in Indianapolis, who stuck it to the man by serving Yuengling prior to the change in law allowing the trade. My hat's off to Brad Klopfenstein, our libertarian friend and manager of the Antelope Club, for milking that $500 fee for several $1,000s worth of promotion for the club. Now, here's your events. This week on Thursday, March 9th, the Libertarian Party of Morgan County is going to be having their meet and greet. That happens at Ralph and Ava's Cafe and Catering on Main Street in Mooresville from 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. And again, that is this Thursday. This Saturday, from noon to 3 p.m., join the folks at the Higher Fellowship on the steps of the Boone County Courthouse for the Boone County Legalization Rally. They actually had to go to court to make this a possibility, so be sure to check that out. That is Saturday, March 11th, the Boone County Legalization Rally. We Are Libertarians will be having an important milestone coming up. That is on Monday, March 13th at Morty's Comedy Joint. They are going to be celebrating 5 years and 200 episodes. So be sure to get out and join Chris Spangle, Greg Lenz, and all the folks over at We Are Libertarians. Again, that is at Morty's Comedy Joint up on 82nd Street, and that is next Monday, March 13th. The Jasper County Libertarian Party is going to be having their meeting. That is That is going to be happening on Tuesday. That is going to be happening on Tuesday, March 14th at 6:30 p.m. That runs till 8 p.m. and that is at Boundary Waters Restaurant in DeMott, Indiana. So again, get up there to check out the folks at Boundary Waters Restaurant, the Jasper County Libertarian meeting. The Libertarian Party of Lake County is going to have their officer election and county convention. That is happening at Houlihan's in Cherville. That is going to be going on Thursday, March 16th from 7 to 10 p.m. And again, on Cherville, so all of you folks up in the region will want to get out to check out that meeting. Libertarians in the St. Patrick's Parade at Deer Park Pub. This is going to be happening with the Libertarian Party of Allen County. This is in Fort Wayne. It is the world's shortest St. Patrick's Day parade, but the Libertarians are going to be there. That goes on at 4:30. Be sure to join other Libertarians at the bar at 4:30 to get that happening. News from Mark Rutherford. He's going to be offering a campaign training class. That happens Saturday, March 25th from 7:30 a.m. to 12:30 noon. And there is a fee for this, but again, you can go to Mark W. Rutherford and Associates and get some information about this campaign training. It's sure to be well worth the expense. On March 29th, the Libertarian meeting will be happening at the Kroger in Fort Wayne, Indiana. The Libertarian Party of Allen County has an event going on from 7 to 9 p.m. at the Kroger on Coventry Lane in Fort Wayne, so be sure to check that out. Here in Marion County, the Libertarian Party of Marion County will have their county convention. That is Saturday, April 1st, and no comment on the April Fool's Day coincidence. That is Saturday, April 1st from 1:30 to 3 p.m. And, of course, you do need to be mindful of the Libertarian State Convention. That happens from May 5th to the 7th down in Evansville, Indiana, and that promises to be a lot of fun. Last week we had Arvin Vora, the Libertarian National Committee Vice Chair, who will be one of the guest speakers, and he has some very interesting things to say about what you can expect at the convention. Okay. In 2016, Donald Rainwater made waves in Hamilton County with his run for office. Since then, he has continued to write prolifically on public policy and how best to increase freedom for Indiana citizens. He recently formed a committee to plan for his next run for public office. Let's learn more about Donald's, his plans for Hamilton County, and the state of Indiana.
We are joined this week by one of the most successful candidates in the whole state of Indiana in 2016, Mr. Donald Rainwater. Now, a lot of us are already looking forward to election cycles in 2018. I don't think there's a single thing going on in the state in 2017, but many of us are setting our sights on that horizon, which is 2018. Mr. Rainwater is doing that in no small way. He recently announced the formation of an exploratory committee for a possible run of some type in 2018. To get to the bottom of that and much more, we are joined by Donald. Donald, tell us a little bit about yourself for those of us who have not had the pleasure of meeting you face to face.
Well, I am a lifelong Hoosier. I am a Navy veteran. I was in the Navy during most of the 80s. Got out, got into technology after a few years, have been a software engineer since right around 1998. Got involved with the Libertarian Party because I felt like the two major parties, if we want to call it that, the two old parties, if you will, are too extreme. They are only looking out for the special interests that fund their campaigns, and people like you and me have been forgotten. And I decided it was time to do something about that.
Well, in 2016, it was very odd to emerge as the party of moderation between the extreme poles. Talk to us a little bit about your experience as a candidate in 2016. Remind us again, specifically, what office did you run for?
I ran for the state senate in District 20 against Luke Kinley, the Indiana State Senate Appropriations Committee chairman.
And how did it come out for you on Election Day?
Well, we got about 5%. I believe we did pretty well, considering the fact that we were running in a three-party race. There was a Democrat as well as myself and Mr. Kinley. Mr. Kinley is the second longest serving state senator in the Senate. He also, being in Hamilton County, has a lot of name recognition around here. He's a very well-known individual in Noblesville. And so I feel like we did rather well, but we got a late start. And one of the things that I decided was that in order for us to really be able to be effective, we needed to declare a candidacy, start raising money, start raising awareness, getting that name recognition built up in 2017 and not wait until the spring of 2018 to start mounting a campaign.
Well, I think that's something that many of us have been talking about, is the need to get the ball rolling today. For that matter, back in January, get the ball rolling for what's going to happen in 2018 and beyond. So, with that much in mind, you have formed an exploratory committee. Tell us a little bit about the committee, your plan, your people, and how you're moving forward.
Well, right now, the people is me. I was my committee in 2016, and as far as the exploratory committee getting started, it's me, myself, and I. We are, well, I hope so. I believe at this particular juncture, my passion is within the state of Indiana, and I don't think that running for a federal office has the same pull for me as running for the General Assembly or one of the other statewide offices, because I feel like we have a lot of work to do here in Indiana. I think the Republican Party has perceived that they have been empowered by people and can now run roughshod over the citizens of the Hoosier state and tax and spend and tax and spend and be Democrats because there aren't any Democrats in any positions of power. And so we need to step up and become that fiscally conservative voice for people who don't want bigger government and don't want more spending. And, you know, I read just, read here just the other day that somebody had named the Indiana state government the #1 state government in the country. Mm-hmm. And if our government is #1 in the country, then 49 other states need libertarianism really bad, and we need to be the example here for everybody else. And I think it's time that we stepped up our game, if you will, and thought outside the box a little bit and figured out how to win some of these seats in the General Assembly, get some of the press that we need to tell people that there's an option, that it's not tax and spend or tax and spend more, that there are fiscally conservative options out here who don't want to raise a cigarette tax in order to stop people from smoking, or raise the gasoline tax and your license plates in order to pay for roads that should already be funded. Those are things that, frankly, get me fired up, and hopefully we can get a lot of other people fired up about it and make some change in 18.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, I think you bring up an interesting point, and that is, it seems like the GOP here in Indiana has taken their success at the polls in recent years as a mandate to rule like it's a democracy and not a republic. It seems like the very rule of law has been thrown to the side. Things like fiscal responsibility, respect of property rights, keeping the separation between church and state. These are just a few of the things where we've seen the power of the state really expand beyond what's acceptable, especially to those of us as libertarians. You mentioned that the General Assembly might be a place where it seems like you could be working. Do you think, have you put thoughts to the House, to the Senate? Any thoughts on what your opponents might be like in either of those races in Hamilton County?
Well, obviously, because in 2016 we ran against Luke Kenley, the Senate seat won't be open again until 2020. Mm-hmm. So at this point, if I'm going to run for the General Assembly, it'll need to be for the House seat out of District 24. The incumbent there is Donna Shively. But we've had a really good candidate run for that representative seat in 2016, Errol Sitnak, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. I hope I am. And he hasn't decided whether he's going to run or not yet.
Aha.
And I don't want to, he's already built up name recognition. I wouldn't want to infringe on his turf. So that's part of the process of going through the exploratory committee. I can raise money, I can raise awareness, and if something is available for me to run for in 18, then I can do it. If I have to wait until 2019 or 2020, then at least I'm getting started on raising money and raising awareness.
Well, thank you for clarifying kind of what's happening within the party politics there in Hamilton County. I can guarantee I'll be contacting Errol Sitnak and offering him an opportunity to come on the show and chat a little bit about his prospects and also his experiences in 2016. Now, are there any other races that you believe you could have an impact in outside of the State House on a more local level, maybe at the county level, or things like state auditor, things of that nature?
Well, I haven't looked into that in too much detail yet. here again, we're early enough in that I can kind of take a look at those things and see where I can be most effective for promoting the party platform and being able to do something that will affect change long term. I believe that what we're here to do is get government smaller, be more fiscally responsible, increase the liberty and freedom of the citizens of the state of Indiana. And in doing that, we have to get into office.
Mm-hmm.
But I also believe that one of the keys to that is that Secretary of State's race in 2018.
Very important.
If we could get people behind the idea of getting a get out the vote movement for 2018, and we could get enough people to come out and vote for Secretary of State for the Libertarian candidate and get that 10% so that we become on equal footing with the Republicans and the Democrats, it would have a big impact on our ability to then get into office and make change. So those are things that to me are top priority. Getting those open seats in the Senate, those open seats in the Indiana House, and getting that 10% to put us on some equal footing.
One of the things I've been talking to several of our guests here at Indiana Libertarian Update about, how do we get there? Do we take a strategy where we recruit and try to flood the ballot, as we have attempted to in the past, and in Marion County we've had some success with that? Or do we focus on a handful of candidates and really put our volunteers, our monetary, and other resources towards these key candidates that are really willing to put in the effort and run a traditional campaign? What's your view on this? More candidates or better candidates?
Well, I think we kind of are in a place where we can and should try to do, if you will, a hybrid of both. When I joined the party and when I decided I wanted to run in 2016, I did not look for the party to engage a lot with me because I was new. Mm-hmm. And I needed to come out and prove that I was serious and that I promoted the platform. And I think we can flood the ballot with candidates who want to run and who want to promote the platform. But that doesn't mean that the party has to put its resources behind all of those candidates. I think the idea of having a handful of candidates where we know that there's a two-party race, us and an incumbent, or even better, us and somebody who's not an incumbent, but there's not a three-party split, where we believe that if we can really get out a volunteer force to go door to door and get that person's name out, I think that's the best strategy, because I still believe that if we want people to think of us as equal in stature to the Democrats and the Republicans, we have to show ourselves as equal in stature by, if you will, flooding the ballot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a dilemma, and I've heard many perspectives on it. I think where I'm at, and having been one of those paper candidates in the past, I think we need to raise the threshold of expectations a little bit. Make it clear that if you're going to run, you need to do things like, well, fill out your paperwork, respond to questionnaires, and if there's somebody else who's willing to run a more active campaign, to step aside and support them. But I also think that we as a party, whether that be at the county level, the state level, we need to be thoughtful and consider really focusing those resources. Now, you mentioned earlier, well, first of all, I really appreciate your passion for getting libertarians elected. That is a theme that is all too often overlooked as people engage in certain philosophical discussions or in more abstract approaches to the movement. But I do believe that getting people in office is crucial, and I appreciate your enthusiasm and passion for that. Earlier, you mentioned specifically talking in terms of smaller government, fiscal responsibility, and increasing freedom. Could you be a little more specific? If you were going to narrow it down to 2 or 3 specific issues that you would like to see change in the state or perhaps there in Hamilton County, what would those be?
Well, I think we start with the fact that I believe education is best dealt with locally. And so for me, right now everybody's talking about Betsy DeVos as the federal Department of Education head and the plan to disband the Department of Education at the federal level. I think we should be talking about the same thing at the state level. All of this discussion in the General Assembly right now about should the superintendent of public education be appointed or elected? How about we don't have one? How about the school boards and the administrators in the local school districts run their school districts as they see fit, and the money stays local and the state stays out of it? That's something that to me is a big deal. Because here again, the control that the General Assembly, to a great extent a group of lawyers, has over education in the state of Indiana, I believe is unhealthy. So that's a big deal to me. I also kind of feel very...
I was just going to say, as a teacher, I share that passion and that frustration, and it's like you've been reading my mind on that particular issue. It's so hard to get people to move beyond this paradigm of control and central control at that, and I can think of nothing better for the students and the state fiscally than to return control to the local school districts, the local schools, individuals, whether they be the parents, the students, and the shareholders in education. So I'm on board with that one. Let me, forgive me for interrupting, but go on.
No, you're fine. Because here again, I believe that one of the things that government has done, both at the federal and the state level, has stripped parents of their rights and responsibilities with their children. There are way too many instances where people say, well, the parents are absent. Well, the parents are absent because they can be, because the government has taken the responsibility for their kids from them, so then they don't feel like they have to worry about it. The government's got this. And we need to return the responsibility for children back to the parents. Personal freedoms here again. The age of drinking has always been, because I was in the Navy, and I always felt like if I'm old enough to go overseas and fight for my country and die for my country, I'm old enough to have a beer.
Absolutely.
And I'll take that a step further. In my opinion, if a parent wants to allow their children at the age of 16 or 14 to sit and have a glass of wine or to have a beer in their home, and they're willing to sign a document taking responsibility for whatever might happen to that child, then the government needs to stay out of that. Once you turn 18 and you're an adult, it's your decision. Before that decision belongs to your parents. The other thing that really kind of has solidified with me are all the laws like the cigarette tax. We need to raise a cigarette tax to get people to quit smoking because it raises health insurance costs. Hey, you know what? I eat way too much McDonald's. Are they going to start taxing my McDonald's to get me to stop eating at McDonald's?
It's certainly been tried in other parts of the country.
Exactly. And these are things people need to be like, if you want to kill yourself with cigarettes, or you want to kill yourself with alcohol, or with fast food, That's none of the government's business. And if they would stop over-regulating the insurance industry, then health insurance companies can offer me an insurance policy that is tailored to me and you one to you, and we don't have to worry about you paying for my Big Mac or me paying for somebody else's cigarette habit. Mm-hmm. So those are things that, to me, need to be addressed. We have limited freedoms, and the sad thing is the majority of us don't even realize that we are basically indentured servants to the government through the company we work for.
A lot of people, one of the most difficult things I believe to overcome as a libertarian is we are fighting against generations of conditioning, whether it be through our government schools, whether it be through our social programs. People don't seem to be able to conceive that they can and should be responsible for their children's education. They can and should be responsible for making decisions with their children about things like alcohol consumption, cannabis consumption, any number of these things. But it's also very exciting that we see more and more people realizing that there is a world and a life beyond the state. I want to go ahead and wrap it up here. Do you have any thoughts or any messages you'd like to convey to our viewers here at Indiana Libertarian Update before we wrap you up today?
Well, the one thing that I would like to encourage every libertarian in the state of Indiana to do is evaluate, what do I want out of the party? What is my purpose for being a libertarian? And if the purpose really is less government and more freedom, then we've got to get out there as a group and we've got to work together to get some folks elected. We need to, you made the comment earlier about having candidates who have a little more skin in the game, if you will. One of the things that I'm doing with my exploratory committee is I'm putting a certain amount of money aside every paycheck into my campaign fund so that when it comes time to really start ramping it up, I've put some skin in the game. I've got something invested in this personally. And I would encourage everybody, whether it doesn't have to be money, it can just be that the volunteer. To put some time in, go knocking on doors or just hand out flyers in front of a Walmart. Do something to help somebody get elected. That's what I would put out there for folks.
And action does so much for all of our morale. That's one of the reasons I do the ILU, is to demonstrate what one person can do with a little bit of time and a little bit of intentional thought and effort. You can make a difference and you can change some things. Yes, it would be great to have millions of dollars in the campaign fund, but at least in my experience, we have just as much need, if not more of a need, for the human resource. And that means getting out from behind the internet. I mean, it's okay to do the Facebook contributions, and there's a lot you can do from the comfort of your own home. But to really get out there and to press the message of libertarianism is desperately needed. So if people want to know more about you or perhaps help you in your efforts to get your campaign together in 2018 or whenever that should happen, what's the best way to get in touch with Donald Rainwater?
Well, I think right now the first place is my Facebook page, which is Rainwater, the number 4, Indiana. My website will be coming back up, which will now be www.rainwater4indiana.
Great.
And I've got an elect Donald Rainwater at outlook.com email address. You can get me there too.
Fantastic. And I would definitely encourage, if all of our listeners and all of our viewers, if nothing else, connect with Donald on Facebook. He has some great posts. He's very thoughtful about his view on politics and what's happening in the state of Indiana, and you will be very pleased with what you learn from him. So, Donald, you will come back and keep us posted on what happens with your committee and any other new information that arises in your efforts?
Certainly. I'd be happy to.
All right. Well, we'll be looking forward to that. And until next time, I'll see you on the computer.
All right. Well, I want to say thanks to Donald for coming out. Great interview, a nice discussion, and a real proactive perspective on what should be happening in libertarian politics in the state of Indiana for the upcoming year. Indiana Libertarian Update returns next week with a yet-to-be determined guest. We've got a few possibilities, but a recent shift in the schedule has left the matter open at the time of this evening's recording. If you have a suggestion for guest, if you have a news story, event, or a meeting you want us to pass along, send us a message via Facebook or drop me an email. It's jsipe@sipesociety.com. That's jsipe@sipesociety.com. If you haven't done so, be sure to like our Facebook page, and we'll be sure to pass along our daily events. Anything you see that we pass along in our events, we will also send those out the day of. All you need to do is be a Facebook follower, and you'll get that information. The Indiana Libertarian Update is a production of sipesociety.com, your one-man education and online content consultant. If you would like to see something like this for your organization, if you need help with a newsletter, a website, whatever, get in touch, and I'm sure we can come up with something. Until next time, I'm Jason Sipe, and I'll see you on the computer.